edition of edtech Monday, live on the City Breakfast Show, live on City FM's Facebook page and Mest Africa's Facebook page. Many thanks for joining us. My name is Nathan Quao. Now, edtech Monday is a platform for edtech entrepreneurs, education stakeholders, and government reps to facilitate critical conversations on the use of technology for teaching and learning. Now, last month, we discussed the importance of a strong foundation in literacy and numeracy skills for young learners in Ghana, and we established how crucial the development of advanced skills were to the economic development and the well-being of individuals and communities. Now, one of the recommendations was to introduce technology-enabled learning at the foundational level to boost lifelong skills, and additionally introduce digital literacy at an early age to increase learning outcomes. So somebody will ask, okay, so what is digital literacy? Now, in simple terms, the ability to use communication and information technology to generate, evaluate, and communicate messages which require both technical and cognitive abilities. And there are a number of significant barriers to digital literacy in Africa. However, the lack of adequate information technology support systems and the inability to afford the necessary digital infrastructure is a major one. Major one. So this month we are connecting the dots. We are trying to understand the power that edtech holds in delivering and addressing these 21st century skills, digital literacy and all of that. We also try and find out what we need to do to facilitate access to digital literacy, and we'll find out how edtech helps in digital literacy for learners and educators. So I've been joined by three people who know their tech and know their tech very, very well. I've got Ida Adikor Nate, who's CEO and co-founder of CTN Technologies. Now, Ida is passionate about transforming Africa with innovation and technology through education. Most of the decisions are tailored toward achieving this goal, and as a result, she pursued a degree in electrical and electronic engineering and is currently the CEO and co-founder of CTN Technologies. And she's the founder of Tech World Club at the KNUST, aimed at fostering innovation and problem-solving skills in students. Her company, CTN Technologies, has trained over 300 young people and mentored over 85 young girls in tech from Ghana through a partnership with Wenters Global. And she was an SDG 4 youth advocate for UNICEF Ghana during the UN Transforming Education Summit, and is a youth ambassador for Generation Unlimited. Ida, thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
Thank you, Nathan.
Great. Next up, we have Noble Selomje. He's co-director for edtech West Africa. Now, Noble went to UCC. He's got a Bachelor of Education, IT Education. And since then, he's been a strong advocate for young people to acquire in-demand digital skills so they stay relevant in their chosen careers. And he has a passion for education and is dedicated to supporting teachers across the country to acquire skills to support the integration of technology into their teaching practice. Now, Noble has been offering teachers and students continuous support on how to solve everyday problems using digital technologies. He's a proud member of GSET, a member of the Africa Society for Technology in Education, where he shares his experience in product development with participants on that program. Noble, thank you. Good morning and welcome to edtech Monday.
Thank you very much.
Great. Finally, we've got Samuel Nyakwe Japan. He's Senior Research and Evaluation Manager, Education Sub-Saharan Africa, ESSA. Now, he's an emerging specialist in education research and policy with 8 years of experience in conducting and utilizing research evidence to inform higher education policies and programs in Sub-Saharan Africa. He currently works as a researcher at the Education Sub-Saharan Africa. Sam, good morning. Welcome to edtech Monday.
Thank you very much, Nathan.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Let me start off with Noble and Samuel, and I'll throw the same question at you, and maybe you can answer from different perspectives. Now, in today's environment, education, technology, they work hand in hand, to promote and prepare learners for the future. What is Ghana's case? When we talk about Ghana, what is our own story when we talk about education and technology?
Okay. So like other countries, there is a growing interest when it comes to education technology in Ghana, and loads of efforts have been made by the government and its agencies, particularly the Ministry of Education, and also NGOs and other private sector players in the education space. Loads of initiative or effort has been made. Some of these includes the integration of digital literacy in our schools, in our school curriculum. Also, the training of teachers in order to use digital tools in the classroom, as well as also teach students how to use these tools. There's also the use of ICT tools in the collection of data on student and faculty members and then teachers, let me say, and also used for decision making. An example is what we call the Education Management Information System. And even my organization, Education Sub-Saharan Africa, has supported GTech in building what we call the faculty planning tool. So it's a tool that collect data on students and faculty members, do an analysis, and then try to inform government policy on how many faculty members to recruit in order to achieve the student-teacher ratio. These efforts have not come with some major challenges. And these challenges are more around capacity and infrastructure. So it will amaze you to know that only 15 households in Ghana have access to computers. And this is coming from the recent Ghana Statistical Service and the UNICEF data. Also, when we go into schools, only 25% of primary schools have access to electricity. So you could imagine, how do we integrate technology in schools if we do not have the infrastructure needed? When we come to capacity, you could also see that there is limited capacity when it comes to the knowledge of faculty members or teachers within the primary and secondary schools in order to direct students on how to use these tools or teach them.
Major programs that the government has actually put in place to kind of like show their commitment to improving education and technology. We can talk about GIFEC, and we can talk about the NEIP, the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program, and then the Ghana Investment for Electronic Communications. These programs have given the opportunity to young people to prepare themselves in order for them to innovate and bring ideas on board that can actually support education. So I think there have been challenges, but then that gives us the opportunity to know that there are opportunities for edtech development in Ghana.
Great, wonderful. This one is for everybody, but let me get Ida's thoughts on this one. Now we've established the background. We do know that 89% of learners in Sub-Saharan Africa do not have access to household computers. 82% lack internet access. Maybe it's even more. I don't know. And at least 20 million people live in areas that are not covered by a mobile network. So what can and cannot work for learners and educators where digital literacy is concerned?
Okay, so I will take this from the shift that happened from the advent of COVID in 2020. I think it pushed a lot of educational institutions to move to virtual learning platform, online learning platforms, and all of that. One thing that I noticed was that some of these virtual learning platforms were not made available to people who do not have internet infrastructure. And I know of CENLOS, Center for National and Digital Learning, Open School. I'm not too sure what the full meaning, but I know that CENLOS has this iBox, intelligent box. And what that does is that they provide learning resources, but then you don't need internet access. So they built a technology where you can take to a community and then you can access learning resources without internet access. And I think that was like a breakthrough for us. I'm hoping that more innovations in that line would come up. So that's something that can work for remote areas that do not necessarily have internet access. Now, with what cannot work, as you mentioned earlier, I'm an SDG for quality education youth advocate with UNICEF. So I'm very particular about children education. And one thing I've come to observe is that some people are considering the option of going fully virtual when it comes to education of young people. But then I believe that the early years of young people are the formative years, the years that the young people develop their brains. I remember when we were in school, we're not given calculators and other things, and these things helped us develop
the multiplication form
in your head. It helped us, develop our quantitative skills, brain development, cognitive abilities, and all of that, and even our writing skills. But then sometimes giving them too much exposure to these digital technologies can kind of like make their development a bit retrogressive, right? So I think that as much as we are exposing young people or children to digital technologies, there should be a limit. It should be regulated. There's a plethora of information out there, and there's so much on the internet. But when it comes to digital literacy for young people, I think more care should be taken in that the information should be regulated and limited. So this is my submission on this.
Guys, do you want to add something?
So about the resources that are available to young people, I think that it's more about access. Currently, we have a struggle with infrastructure provision in various schools and all that.
Yeah.
But one thing that we are sure of is that there are more young people who are having mobile phones. There are more teachers who have mobile phones. So we should leverage that aspect of the resource that they have available in order to make these resources available to them. That's one. And then two, we can talk about community-based learning in that this time around, instead of rolling these programs through institutions and all that, we can go through various stakeholders in their various communities. Schools vacate, students go home. What are they doing? How are parents able to support their learners to enroll on some of these programs? Then that leads us to what we call the public-private partnerships. So government should make available policies, reforms that kind of like give these private institutions like a leveled ground for them to be able to collaborate with government institutions and then private institutions, so that they can, these private institutions like CTN Technologies, like edtech West Africa, like Southern Africa, can then engage with these people and bring them into the space for them to be able to access all these resources that are available to them.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Sam. Nathan, let me build on the points made by Noble around the mobile phones. So in my view, I think the access to mobile phone or using mobile phone as a tool in digital literacy is one of the low-hanging fruits. However, there are questions surrounding its ownership and usage in schools, which we need to acknowledge, right? The reason why I'm basing my argument on that is that the recent data from Ghana Statistical Service shows that 92% of households, which includes even children, have access to mobile phones. And mobile phones also have internet, especially smartphones, have internet and all that. We could leverage this for learners and teachers. For teachers, they could use it for their professional development activities, where they can access these tools that Ida mentioned about the iBox and all that. And even with the iBox, you do not need internet. So it helps rural folks who do not have access to or continuous access to internet and all that. On what may not work, right? I want to also build on a point of digital safety. So there is, we need to pay particular attention on what children are using the internet or these tools for. Yes. And secondly, we shouldn't expect that technology will solve all the issues. So there is some need when it comes to face-to-face interaction. That's why most people, or in the research that I've read and I've done so far, it's leaned towards having a blended model where students interact with both the digital sessions as well as the face-to-face sessions. Yeah,
great. I don't know, but let's talk about 21st century skills. You know, we talk about the fact that they are the lifelong additions to the continent's workforce. So how are we preparing young learners and educators using edtech tools that are available?
Okay, so I'm going to start with the story of why we started CTN Technologies.
Okay.
So that happened way back 2016, 2015. I was a student on KNUST campus, and I was watching this discussion on the World Economic Forum about the fourth industrial revolution and about how Africa had the capacity to leapfrog into all these new technologies. And I was amazed. It's like I was on campus, I was studying engineering, but nobody was talking about this. It's like all we knew was engine math, calculus, get A's and leave. Nobody was actually taking time to actually build our problem solving skills and abilities. So I was like, no, something has to be done about this. I cannot hear this and do nothing, right? So I decided to meet a few of my friends who were skilled in electronics, robotics, because the fourth industrial revolution technologies is IoT, robotics, genetic engineering, drone technology. And that's what we do at CTN Technologies. So I went to meet some of my friends who are skilled. I didn't necessarily have the skill at the time, but then I knew how to bring people together. So I went to see them. We started a club. We're like, no, we're going to train people to be problem solvers. So we train them with the skill, we train them to solve problems. And this is what we are doing at CTN Technologies, building them for the future of work, building them for the fourth industrial revolution. I was having a conversation with someone this morning, and he was talking about how mobile money just revolutionized the financial industry. And that's the kind of leapfrogging we need when it comes to these new technologies. And I think that more people need to be trained, more people need to have the skills to be able to fit into the new job roles that are coming on the market. So this is how we as CTN Technology are preparing young people for the future of work.
Oh.
Yes, thank you very much. I think the whole conversation around 21st century skills in Ghana became very prominent with the inception of the new curriculum for the basic schools. And then hopefully there's senior high school curriculum that is currently coming. I would like to take the 21st century skill building from the perspectives of teachers and then students. We need to be able to, as much as possible, equip these teachers in ways that they would be able to deliver in terms of tailoring their learning and teaching towards helping these learners develop these skills. So we're talking about hybrid learning models for the teachers. So we talk about hybrid learning, we talk about blended learning approaches, but are teachers able to use the tools? Are they able to leverage online tools to be able to offer this teaching to the students? If those things are not there, how then are we sure that the learners are able to take up these 21st century skills that you're talking about?
Okay.
That's why there need to be more opportunities for teachers to learn. There need to be more programs designed for teachers to interact with technologies. Now, for us at edtech West Africa, what we are doing is that there is like a huge gap between edtech companies that are offering such solutions to schools and to teachers. So then how are we kind of like building an ecosystem for these teachers to interact with these edtech providers, providing them with feedback that can help them improve their products? And then also teachers, some of them do not even know the edtech solutions that are available to them to use. So then we are now like serving like a bridge between these two entities. The teachers get to know the tools that are available to them to use for free, and then they in turn provide feedback to these edtech entrepreneurs for them to improve their products. So that's what we are doing as edtech West Africa.
Great.
And then we are on it.
Great. Sam, let's talk about digital literacy being beneficial to leapfrogging education technology, hybrid models of learning, and 21st century skills. How is digital literacy beneficial to all these components we are talking about?
Okay, thank you very much, Nathan. So you giving me the first questions. All right. So if I say digital literacy skills are really crucial, especially within the time and know that there is a lot of educational resources available. And if children or learners have these digital literacy skills, how to access the internet, how to navigate these models and all that, it opens up an opportunity for lifelong learning for them. And not even only children. I can put myself into it in order to contextualize this. So whilst a student, I was able to take loads of courses on edX, Coursera, and all that. So it helps you to leapfrog, and it helps you. So you could take, be in Ghana and take a course from MIT, Harvard, and all these top schools or universities that we know about. When it comes to building 21st century skills, so digital literacy, like, around gamification, using even Facebook and Twitter, helps you to be able to coordinate and understand issue. Gamification evidence shows that it helps you to build critical thinking skills and all that. So these are skills that are needed when it comes to the world we are in now.
Okay.
So once again, contextualizing it by putting myself in there, my work is 100% remote. And I say
100% remote.
Remote, yes.
Lots of people would kill to have you.
Exactly. So I sit here in Ghana and work with my colleagues in Germany, in UK, in Kenya, and we coordinate on a lot of things, like working on the same document, doing research analysis using these tools and all that. After that, we use this like Teams and then Zoom and all that to communicate. Imagine if I didn't have digital skills. That means I will not be able to tap into the employment opportunity that the labor market of 21st century is offering. So I think digital literacy skill is very, very necessary when it comes to taking advantage of employability aspect. I'll end by also talking about it gives, opportunity for people to engage in civil engagement, civil conversation, or civic conversation. So, like we are here now, we are accessing information, and we are doing this through radio. Radio is also an aspect of ICT, right? Others are using Facebook, Twitter in order to engage. So imagine if you do not have these skills to access these platforms. That means you are being cut off from these conversations. So it helps or provide opportunity for people to, engage in civil conversation. So yeah, I'll pause here. And, thank you.
Still listening to EdTech Monday, the April edition of EdTech Monday. Today we are discussing digital literacy, a crucial component of 21st century skills. And I've been speaking with Ida Padikwo Nate, CEO and co-founder of CTN Technologies. I also have Noble Selomje, who is co-director for edtech West Africa, and Samuel Nyakwe Japan, senior research and evaluation manager, education Sub-Saharan Africa. You can send in your thoughts and comments on 0549 986 996. It's been an enlightening conversation so far. We have a lot more left to give you. All right, let's get back to the conversation. Ida, let me bring you in. Let's talk about the roles of edtech innovators and the roles they play in investing in Africa-focused technologies to advance teaching and learning, or to advance education technology solutions that promote digital literacy.
So personally, I see edtech innovators as supplements to our educational system.
Okay, supplements,
essential supplements. Being in a country where it takes, almost forever for curriculum to be updated, I was excited to hear that the elementary school have an updated curriculum. I believe that their work is something that is very necessary when it comes to STEM skills. I'm hoping that there's STEM in the new curriculum, but then there are so many startups that are training young people in STEM and robotics, IoT. We do 3D printing and drone technology, and these are essential skills, for the 21st century. And I'm also glad about some of the innovations that are coming in terms of science. So I know about DEX Technologies. They have this science sets that allows you to have your experiment right in front of you. And these things,
I've seen that. It's
amazing. It was just the first time I came across their science set. I was like, wow, this is so innovative. And this is developing, the creative abilities of our students, of our young people. It's going to raise them to become problem solvers. It's going to give them in-depth understanding of the science that they are learning. There are other companies too that are doing amazing. There's Tech Era. Tech Era, focuses on assistive technologies for people with special needs or people with disabilities. So in the sense of education, they try as much as possible to keep even people with disabilities digital literate. They provide technologies with AI and text to speech, speech to text, digital braille systems, so that they can also not be left behind when it comes to digital education. And that's why I think that these digital innovators are really essential in the edtech space, and their work, I think their work should be, encouraged, and more support should be given for these people.
Great stuff. Let me bring Noble in. Okay, let me have Noble and Ida. Okay. And let's talk about the fact that, look, African governments are yet to adequately promote digital literacy in educational institutions for all levels of learners and educators. So let's talk about the void that your respective entities fill. So CTN Technologies and edtech West Africa. What are you guys doing to fill that gap and make sure that you're solving that issue in that space? Yeah.
Right.
No, we want to go first?
Yes.
Yeah.
So clearly government is, how do I say, burdened in a way, and in delivering these interventions. They struggle with expertise in actually delivering innovation with regards to teaching and learning in the classrooms. So for us at edtech West Africa, we are looking at how to directly impact as many learners as possible. We believe that when teachers are equipped, for example, a teacher is able to interact with at least 100 learners within a school term. So if you're able to build the capacity of that teacher, it's amazing the impact that can bring. To tell my own story, when my first interaction with computers came through my ICT teacher.
Okay.
Right. And how he did it was some kind of inspiration for me to want to pursue a career in tech, or even develop the interest in wanting to learn how to use a computer or something. So we believe that equipping the teachers with the right knowledge, equipping them with the technology they need in order for them to actually teach these learners is the first step that we are taking. So for us at edtech West Africa, it's about providing as much opportunities for these teachers through these edtech offerings. So the edtech companies are there, they want to design interventions, but most times these edtech companies are made up of software engineers who probably are just impressed by writing a code, right? Then are the solutions that they are trying to create really the needs of these teachers or the learners? Are they addressing the gaps? Like, for example, in West Africa and even Africa, to say foundational literacy and numeracy is a big challenge. But then if you look at the number of interventions in terms of software development, platforms that are available to teach foundational literacy and numeracy, it is always tailored towards teaching the learners how to read and write. But then how about teaching the teachers how to teach?
How to read and write.
And then you see that there is a gap that exists over there. So we at edtech West Africa are kind of like helping these edtech companies to use that evidence that the main challenge we have is literacy and numeracy. Design interventions that are going to help us to be able to roll this out, not only to the learners, but to prepare the teachers to have that interaction with the learners. Because then if a teacher can interact with learners within the school, let's see the impact that can be. So instead of focusing on how we can develop products that we can maybe sell to parents and then their learners, let's look at developing teachers who then will have that capacity to deliver their learning to the learners.
See, that's very striking. Ida.
Okay, so I'm glad Noble is working with the teachers. I focus more on students, so I'm more biased towards the students. And at CTN Technologies, beyond the training, our focus is to raise problem solvers and innovators, and that's what we plan to do.
Okay.
So what void are we filling? So with the work we do, there are two parts, right? There's innovations and conversations. The same way we are having this educational conversation, we also have conversations with leaders in the tech space, with leaders in innovative entrepreneurial space, just to inspire the next generation of young people so that they can become the leaders of tomorrow. That's one of the things we do. And then in terms of the training, we don't just train people with the skills. We have ideathons where they can come up with ideas, that solve actual problems in the society. Sometimes you run through school and it's all about gaining knowledge, memorizing, passing exams. But nobody's hammering the fact that the knowledge is for an expected end. The knowledge is
to solve a problem.
Exactly. And that is what we are actually hammering when you come to CTN Technologies. I'm currently with the UNICEF Startup Lab, and we are building a virtual learning platform as well. So beyond the in-person training too, we are trying to go global, right? We are trying to get these practical STEM lessons to everybody, no matter where you are in the world. You have access to this knowledge, access to this skill, and then you can develop yourself. So that's what we are doing as well.
Wonderful.
That's great.
That's great. Sam, you are the policy person here.
Yeah.
Do we have policies around edtech that support the introduction and implementation of digital literacy programs?
Can I speak
you want to jump on that?
Yeah, no. The very first conversation, the one that Noble has spoken to already.
Concerning what they are expected.
Yes. I want to make it quick because Noble talked about teachers. Ida talked about students. We are also focused on the policy makers. Exactly. And I wanted to talk you through a bit.
Three-legged team.
Exactly. So we'll be missing that if I don't talk about that. So I'll come back to your substantive question. But then on the policy side of things, so you've ever been in a class, example in economics class, where one teacher is teaching like 300 students, right? There isn't a balance when it comes to student-teacher ratio. And that's what my organization saw as a major problem, and then try to use technology to solve it. But before that, we did a research in collaboration with the Ghana Tertiary Education Council, Association of African University, and the Population Reference Bureau. And then this research came out to say that, in order to achieve the student-teacher ratio that we have in our universities, government university will need to recruit like a double of what we have currently.
In terms of teachers.
Exactly, in terms of teachers, in order to have a balance when it comes to student-teacher ratio. And the second phase of this project had led to the development of what we call the faculty planning tool. So this is a tool that collects data on faculty members, like teachers in the university and students, and then do an analysis with this data and then inform the government. Okay, so we need let's say 500 faculty members when it comes to sciences. We need 1,000 when it comes to social sciences. We need this when it comes to medicine and all that. So that is what my organization is doing. Now back to your substantive question regarding policies
around edtech, whether those policies are there,
exist or not. So I would say yes, there are policies around education technology in Ghana.
Okay.
And as at this point, we have two key policies within the education sector. And these policies are the ICT for Accelerated Development Policy, which was developed in 2003. So now if you say 20, I mean, another 20. Yes. And then the second one was developed.
And it was developed in 2003.
Yes. And that's
20 years ago.
Exactly. Okay. And this policy serves as a bedrock when it comes to technology usage in all sectors. So this policy aimed at improving 14 sectors of our economy, which education is included, like health, agric, and all that. So that is why it's like the mother, policy when it comes to technology in Ghana, and not only in education. The second policy is focused on education, which is the ICT in Education policy. And this was developed in 2015. Okay. The policy provides guidelines on the implementation of ICT or the integration of educational technology in our classroom, and focus on 7 key areas: education management, capacity building, like Noble is talking about, infrastructure and e-learning, coordination of ICT, content development, as well as technical support and M&E. There are other policies that do not sit within the education sector or education space. An example of such policy is the cybersecurity policy, which was developed in 2014 by the Ministry of Communication. So these are the key policies that drives technology integration in education and in other sectors.
Wonderful. You're still listening to edtech Monday on City 97.3 FM. It's the April edition, and today we are talking digital literacy. Digital literacy being a crucial component of 21st century skills. And I have Ida Padikwa Nate, who's CEO and co-founder of City and Technologies. I've got Noble Selomje, who is co-director of edtech West Africa. And I have Samuel Nyakwe Japan, senior research and evaluation manager with the Education Sub-Saharan Africa. All right, like we always do every month, there's always a part where we get to listen to some very important stakeholders. Today we'll listen to a learner, and that learner is talking about tools and methods to, the learner is being asked what tools and methods they use at home or school to help improve their literacy and numeracy skills. And they're also being asked how they envision education in the future and how they are preparing for these new ways of learning.
Considering the methods, we as students mostly use audio learning, video. Considering the methods, we as audio learning as in we mostly go to YouTube or other websites in which we can see the classes being taken in person. And also concerning the audio learning, we mostly, as we read the online textbooks, we also include the audio aids in order to enhance our learning. Kinesthetic learning is more of like an on-hands experience. Whereas you are in a chemistry class, you can be able to witness and see the chemistry apparatus as you learn with it. Students mostly use audio learning, video learning, and kinesthetic learning. So video learning as in, we mostly go to YouTube or other websites in which we can see the classes being taken in person. And also, concerning the audio learning, we mostly, as we read the online textbooks, we also include the audio aids in order to enhance our learning. Kinesthetic learning is more of like an on-hands experience, whereas you are in a chemistry class, you can be able to witness and see the chemistry apparatus as you learn with it. So for the future, I think education will be centered upon problem-solving techniques, and also it will be technologically driven. So in a sense, students will not only learn about what the courses are, but also in ways that they can solve it. Students will learn the reason why they were studying the Pythagorean theory, why they are studying the necessity of atoms in our everyday lives. To prepare for this new advanced form of learning, we as ISN students have incorporated e-learning techniques and materials into our everyday schooling activities. So during the long breaks, students are engaged in schooling activities with the use of Khan Academy, Zoom, Google Classroom, and others, through which they can engage in learning and other forms of studying without being on campus.
Distinct thoughts from our learner there. So let me ask everybody here. Let me start with you, Noble. What are your suggestions, right, on leveling the digital literacy playing field, given the fragmented learning populations with varying learning outcomes and the milestones in Ghana? What really can we do to make sure that we have a level playing field?
Right. Earlier in my submission, I made mention of where we currently are in terms of our strengths.
Mm-hmm.
Many students are using mobile phones. Teachers are doing that. What do we do to make sure that as much as possible, a lot of these students more have this too, so that then we can start our interventions from that area? The government should work with agencies that have these technologies like ITEL, Techno, Microsoft, and all these people to, as much as possible, subsidize the price of these devices so that then these devices can be sent to schools. Now, we currently know that at the senior high school level, we have about 738 senior high schools. I'm not sure of the figure, but around that figure. It's going to be very difficult for government for them to deploy, let's say, ICT labs across all these schools. But what is possible is to be able to establish like ICT centers that have at least internet connectivity. Then every learner, every community is able to have that opportunity to at least have some interaction with computers.
But I mean, okay, you finish. When you said that, something came to mind. You finish, and I'll ask you a question.
Then next is also to set like a fertile ground for organizations like City and Technologies to be able to operate. Platforms like opportunities for events that enable government agencies like the GES, the STEM leading agencies on STEM to be able to interact with companies like City and Technologies, because then they are actually implementing programs that are working. They've seen the impact that it's making. They've had people go through their programs and are now making strides in their industries and all that. Then these people have relevant inputs and learnings that can then be applied into the space. So you look at STEM centers, for instance, that is happening now. The question then is, how is government collaborating with these private entities for them to make sure that like their curriculum and even the projects that their students are embarking are relevant in terms of the industry, in terms of the research that currently exists? Yeah, so that's what we should do: subsidize, provide ICT centers, and then collaborate with private entities.
You mentioned, you said ICT centers, not labs. So quickly, what jumps at me is that probably they are bigger than your standard computer lab grade. Yeah, and then so for example, I'm just thinking about, where would you cite this? Would you place this in every school, or you place it at a place where 2-3 schools can have access to such a place, that kind of thing?
Yes. So we could talk about instead of citing these places, these centers in schools, we could talk about districts.
I see.
Districts wise. Now, the whole idea is not that it can be established across all districts in the country as stats, but then when we start these innovations, it's going to open up opportunities for investors to want to see that, one, we are trying to build a workforce that are technology focused. It provides that opportunity for investors to come in and then say, okay, you see, we are doing this, it's good, and then we provide the support. Now, when the support is coming, if there's good partnership between private and public entities, then you see that support is directed is in one direction.
Yeah.
Not like private companies are doing one thing, and of course they have the strength, the capacity to pull that off as private entities, because then there's no hindrance in terms of policy and change of government and all that, right? Then if there is that kind of synergy, if investors see that kind of synergy between private and public agencies, then they now see, okay, this is a fertile place. These are people who know where they are going. It's not like government has their curriculum on STEM, and then what they are doing in that curriculum is different from what City and Technologies, who are known in terms of STEM and training on robotics and all that, and drones technology and all that. So then when there's that kind of synergy and oneness in terms of where we want to get to as a country, then investors are ready to come in and then bring their money here.
Wonderful. Ida.
I love the talk on the synergy, connecting the two parties, the public sector, the private sector. I would also say that there should be more incentives for the private sector because a lot of work needs to be done. I'm talking about the telcos now. A lot of work needs to be done when it comes to internet infrastructure. Like there's such a huge gap. And without making strides, we can't really move forward. I can't go to a community and teach them if they don't have internet access, So I would also talk about the marginalized people, people who don't necessarily speak English, so informal sector people. We should find out ways in which we can have multilingual ways of getting them digitally literate.
Okay.
I know people have interventions like that where they teach people how to use computers in their local dialect. I haven't experienced, I'm not too sure how it works, but I think we should look for more interventions like that so that we can bring more people on board. Another marginalized group is people with special needs. I spoke about Tekera. So more interventions like that should be encouraged. It shouldn't be left behind because there are people with special needs who are they have jobs, right? There's this guy, I've forgotten his company, but then he has people who do interpretation and all of that, and they are making money from it. There are people who are even making shoes and all of that. We can't just leave them behind because they are disabled, right? We need to bring everybody on board. They should be able to communicate with clients, have their companies on social media and all of that, and also women.
I'll be sure if you don't bring it in. It's important. It is important.
Discussion. I'm the only lady here, right? So we need to encourage.
We need a lot of you, women.
Yes,
a lot of you in this space.
In this space, edtech, in technology. I'm glad that I chose the STEM path, but we need to encourage more ladies in this space because sometimes it's lonely, right?
Don't you think? I completely agree with you. Okay, now this might be a little off script, but don't you think that because the basis of all of this, I think two parts of this STEM thing, two parts scare a lot of people. The science part and the math part.
Right.
Okay. So I feel personally, I just think that if we can demystify those two things, I think we are on a good leg.
Yeah, and also in terms of that, sometimes all you need is a support system. Exactly. I've heard many stories about young ladies who were encouraged that, look, you can do this, you can learn the math, and they came top of their classes. So I feel like there's not enough of us out there encouraging other girls to come into the space. It's tough for both sides. For the males, it's tough. Engineering is tough for boys and girls. But if there's a support system, if I know that, Ida has done it, I can do it. Ida talks to me, Ida tells me that go about it this way, I would be encouraged to keep pushing, right? And we'll get more girls into the space. So more girls, more support system, more incentives for them. Sometimes I realize that when there's a cohort of all females, they learn to encourage themselves. So more of such interventions should be encouraged to bring in more girls. Thank you.
I say they should teach the math better.
Exactly. So then you see the conversation comes back to
that's it. You see, because I think that you see
math teacher. I think
how many people in Ghana you say that they had good math? For a lot of people, the initial interaction with math just killed whatever interest they may have had. And the point is, math will live with you your whole life. You see, so I feel that once you can't crack that mystery very early, you put people off. Many look, I know people who in their 30s look at math and say, wait a minute. So if I was taught math like this, I would probably understand better. Anyway, Sam, that's my own.
It's the way it's being taught.
That's what anyway, Sam. Yeah.
For me, speaking last is always like, they are
like hardcore practitioners. You are the policy.
So, like you said, I'll take it from the policy point of view. So if you pick the ICT for education policy, one of the key aspects that it lacks is it's accommodating new technology. And I'll use the mobile phones as an example, where lots of people have smartphones in Ghana, but then still our schools are not accommodating the usage.
The secondary school is outlawed.
Exactly, it's outlawed, right? So these are things that should be reconsidered. And even if not students, I think teachers could use it for their professional development and what have you. When you come to the senior, the tertiary level, there is the introduction of AI, which is something that is also a major issue. And I know some universities
artificial intelligence
are kicking. Example, the ChatGPT. So it tells us that day in and day out, new technologies are coming, and our policies should be adjusted to accommodate these technologies. having ChatGPT means that if you give a student assignment, it's quite
very
easy.
likely to go and type it
Exactly.
in.
But then we should look at the aspect of practicality. How do you practicalize our teaching and learning? How do you practicalize our assessments and all that? So these are things that should be considered in our schools and not shy away from the development and improvement when it comes to technology. My second issue will have to also touch on what Ida talked about, which is the localization of our content. So you go on YouTube and what's the most watched video? Shark, baby shark or something.
Baby shark.
But this is
So I was like, Charles's children's party was the number one song. But anyway, they seem to like baby
imagine our children are listening to something local and we have a baby shark version on YouTube and it's playing,
or even Ghanaian
stories. Yes, so we should localize our content. Lots of research is talking about decolonization of the curriculum and all that. I think when it comes to technology as well, we should decolonize the technology that we use. It would be great if children are learning about Kwame Nkrumah, learning about our great leaders and all that, and not learn about Queen Elizabeth and then Prince Charles and all those people in there. This development in our content should also, or the technology that we use in our school should be aligned with our curriculum. So that is the basis for the development, or that should be the basis for the development of our technical or edtech content in education. I will finalize or finish this on having a targeted intervention. And this should be based on evidence and data. So you know where I'm coming from. I'm a researcher. And it's important that all our policies are being data-driven or evidence-driven. So imagine we have one laptop per child, right? And we go and give it to a child who is in, Fabodebe to Michok. There is no electricity.
They don't even have internet
access. They don't have internet.
Yes.
With the internet access, I think there are solutions like the iBox where you don't need internet to access.
They don't have electricity, for
Exactly.
example.
How do you charge the phone? And even when you go to classes, are there computer labs? It's hard to say, but then we have children who still sit under trees to learn and all that. So our policies should be targeted. And I'm not only talking about rural folks. It should be targeted when it comes to women, like Ida talked about. It should be targeted when it comes to people with disability.
Those with special needs.
Exactly, those with special needs. Apart from a Cropon, where do we have where people who are blind could access technology in their classroom or in the universities where I know there are computer labs made up for them? But when it comes to the primary, secondary level, do we have this infrastructure? So in thinking about all these integration and all that, we should think about having a targeted policy. Thank you very much, Nathan.
Great. All right, final question to Ida and Noble. Sam, if you have something to say,
Sure.
So let's just wrap it up. There are a couple of questions, though. I'll see if I can get some answers from you. Now, what kind of support is required from the various stakeholders to enable the organizations you work for and run to reach out to more young learners? What kind of support do you think you need so you can reach more people and teach them the gospel of tech?
So I know it's a bit cliche when people always talk about they need some financing, they need some grants and everything, but actually it's something I can't speak without mentioning that I think more programs should be made available so that startups like myself can access grants, can access some form of support, because without the resources, we cannot teach, right? The 3D printers are expensive, the drones are expensive. We've been bootstrapping for some time, even though we've had some help from here and there, but we need more support when it comes to financing, when it comes to getting resources to have these training programs. And then I'll talk about policymakers.
Sounds people.
Taxes for startups. Sometimes I think there should be more policy intervention when it comes to taxes for startups and a support system, for us as young people. I'm below 30, right? And I'm trying to do something. I'm trying to make impact. You should be supporting me. I'm not trying to support me. So I think policymakers should look at how they can support young startups in edtech in any field so that more people can be encouraged, to come into the space. What else? There should be training. So if you realize that there's talent here, Ida is doing something or somebody else is doing something amazing, how do we train them on the global market so that they can impact or improve their business. There should be some form of training or mentorship for us so that we can grow, because sometimes, taking up this role, being audacious enough to start a business is not that easy. There are challenges you face, there's expertise you need, there's advice you need somewhere along the way. And I think all these things are really necessary and essential for us as young startups in the edtech sector.
Great. Yeah. No.
You're right. Just to add to what she said, I think I want to also agree with her at the part of the funding.
Yeah.
Right.
Money is
yes.
Money is important.
Very important. And earlier also mentioned how to leverage partnerships with the government in terms of on the policy aspect as well.
Yeah.
The last one I want to talk about is parents and then learners.
Parents and learners. Yeah.
Yes, because I'm from the edtech perspective, because people develop products, edtech offerings that are targeted as helping learners. It's difficult to actually get learners committed to using edtech products if you don't get the support of parents.
Yeah.
And of course, I understand that in Ghana, because of how our family dispensations are, many parents are probably not interested in their learners, their children's learning, except in cases where maybe they feel they're busy. Then they realize, oh, my child has failed, and now need to go and enroll them in remedial school.
Yeah.
Or they complete afterwards they fail. Then the parents are now interested. I think parents should be interested in the development of their children right from the start. The very basic school, just class 1 to class 3. And that is the time you should give them an opportunity to interact with edtech products.
I see.
To develop
but that will require that the parents themselves are not green in that area.
Yes, the kind of support that comes from parents to children is not technical.
I see.
But when a learner sees that their parents give them the opportunity to use their devices to interact with their phone, their children are already interested in interacting with their phone. But if the condition is that once you are learning on this app, I can give you the phone, even though it gives them extended benefits of having to watch videos on their own, they know that, okay, I'm using my mom's phone. Once a while, she's going to check on me. What am I doing with the phone within the time with the phone is with me? So then, with time, even though what would have been the natural case was that they are not interacting with the app in any way.
Okay.
So parents should support their children to use phone. They shouldn't prevent them from using it, but then they should guide them.
They should guide
as
them,
to how they should use it. And they shouldn't just leave them to just interact with products in the way they want. It should be tailored. Parents should be, of course, when edtech offerings come around, they try to find ways to explain to parents how this can benefit their children. Instead of us just thinking that these people are just there to take my money. We should be really interested. Yeah, of course. Because sometimes you develop a nice edtech product that is going to help learners to. So there are many of them that have come, go to the Eastern region, for instance, Suhu, thereof. You see that there are some of them have come and they're able to teach learners within 6 months how to read. And this is a big challenge.
How to read.
Then you see people like this, because of funding, have withdrawn over the years, right? What happens?
For a lack of funding.
For the lack of funding.
Yeah.
Now, so then this is where government has to come in, to provide some form of support for these edtech these things to go out. Teachers were interacted with, teachers were using these products in those districts. But because funding was withdrawn for that particular project, the project is not able to move forward. Then we go after 2 years, 5 years, 6 years, we come back and we still say that we are faced with the challenge of reading and writing. And like Ida said, this is someone who is young, being innovative, bringing such a product, which is making big this thing. You don't support the person now. The person takes their product to scale, goes to other countries and scale. Then you see that opportunities are rather leaving the shores of Ghana. So I think these are the things that we need to do in promoting this.
Sam, you want to give us?
Yes. I'll be very snappy because I know the time is fast spent. For me or for my organization, I think the major problem is data. So finance, funding, and all that. But data is key to the work we do in order to inform policymakers on what to do. And
data to analyze and
interpret. Exactly. Imagine making a policy that is popularly based on political gimmicks. It means you are making the policy in the dark. So if there is a data backing the kind of policy that politicians make, or kind of policies or programs that NGOs undertake or at the school level, it leads to some particular outcomes that have been predetermined or have been run through a rigorous data set. And then we know that this evidence, or when we do A or we do A plus B, it will end us to C. So that is what we would want to have. There's a need to unlock education data.
Great.
So there is a lot of data that's sitting on, researchers' laptops and all that. And NGOs have done loads of how do you call it?
Private research.
Exactly, private research, and it's sitting on their data set. The Ghana Statistical Service is doing a great job since Professor Nini joined.
They're doing great work.
Yeah, there's a lot of data that they are sharing, but we think they could do more. Particularly in the education space. Yes, they are doing more when it comes to inflation analysis and then all these giving us quarterly reports. But when it comes to education space, it will be great to have a lot of data where we can analyze and then inform decision and policy making. Thank you.
There's a question here. I think Novo can best answer this one. What are some of the edtech tools that teachers can use to facilitate teaching and learning? Would you want to give an answer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so to talk of edtech tools that are available, so there are homegrown solutions in Ghana, and then I'm going to talk generally about the ones that are currently spanning and people can actually leverage. Google Classroom is the basic one.
Okay.
It's a very
everybody can access
Google Classroom because then everybody has a Gmail account. So Google Classroom is a very powerful tool that people can use to leverage teaching and learning. And I think most recently, with the partnership with the Ghana Library Authority, Coursera, the Ghana Library Authority has been offering lots and lots of scholarship to young people to go on to Coursera. If you know Coursera, it has over 1.8 million courses, training people in several digital skill areas, even in STEM related areas. So Coursera is another one. So you go to a Ghana Library Authority website to check out their Commonwealth of Learning Scholarship is a tool. So these are the two I can mention for now. We have Udemy and all those ones that are always available. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been an enlightening conversation. We're talking digital literacy, crucial component of 21st century skills. I had Ida Padikor-Nate, CEO and co-founder of CTN Technologies. I also had Noble Selomje. He's a co-director for edtech West Africa. And I had Samuel Nyako Japan, Senior Research and Evaluation Manager, Education, Sub-Saharan Africa. Many, many thanks for listening. My name is Nathan Quao. I moderated the session for April of edtech Monday. Now, edtech Monday, for those who do not know, is a platform for edtech entrepreneurs, education stakeholders, and government reps to facilitate critical conversations on the use of technology for teaching and learning, and is an initiative of the MasterCard Foundation's Regional Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning in ICT. It airs every last Monday of every month on the City Breakfast Show. You can watch live on Facebook, Varsity FM, and on West Africa's Facebook page. Just before I wrap it up, are you looking for a career in business analytics? Build your business analysis skills.